Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool video for you this evening. This is a video I'm going to show you this cool pinball machine we got in. It's a Playmatic New World, and I figured I'd shoot this separate video. I have one showing the gameplay and all that, but I figured I'd shoot this separate video for all of you techies out there who work on these electromechanical games that might have been curious like I was over the years. What's the difference between this, which is a game that was built in Spain, and the American version, the American games that we're all familiar with if you work on them, from Bally, Williams, and Gottlieb are the three main ones in America. But this is a Spanish-built game, so I figured I'd shoot a little video and show you some of the differences because they used all different parts. Now there were some, and again we'll get into the weeds for all of the pinball wonks out there. there were some other games built in Spain from different companies. Again, this is a Playmatic that were like Russell and things like that. And famously, Sega had Sonic out of Spain. I think it was Sonic SA, I believe it may have been called, but I haven't gotten any of those. But I've heard that some of those used a lot of like the Williams parts, or that the Russell ones, some of those were copies of the Gottlieb games. This is not a copy, and this is not using, the Playmatic is not a copy, and it's not using any of the parts out of any other machine. It is a completely original game, and in some ways, I'll show you some of the stuff, in some ways it's better designed than the American ones. In other ways it might fall a little flat, but first of all, the most striking thing about them is the way the Playfield was done. I've still got the glass on this one, I'll take it off here in a minute, but the Playfield, or actually let me go ahead and do that. I'll take the glass off and then we'll start on the Playfield, and then we'll open it up. And I'll show you all of the inner workings and how everything's kind of put together. Alright, so the glass magically disappeared. In the other video I was showing, I got a good angle here where I can show how the Playfield's done. These things were covered with like a really thick kind of lacquer or something that looks like maybe it was brushed on by hand. And this is factory. This is not something somebody did afterwards. Look at that. You can see the brush strokes in it, which I know some people probably won't like, but that makes it where this thing has stood the test of time. It has a little bit of, like, look at that, just minor wear in that clear coat. But in general, this thing is in new shape. I mean, it's really held up. So they really did a good job of that. You can also see it pretty heavy in the shooter lane. I mean, they just poured it on there, folks, and it made it where it's lasted a long time, to the point where, look at that, it doesn't really even have a ball track worn in it. There's a minor track you can see if you mess with it in the clear coat, but it's you know, they really did a good job. Look at the shine on that thing, and that's just with regular wax. So that's different, of course. Things like the targets, like, check that out. The targets are really thick. They're made out of plastic, but you know, twice as thick, or maybe even 3 times as thick as the American targets that you might see on a Bally or something. The plastics are even thicker. Look at this. Look how thick the plastics are. So these are things that are actually better on this machine than the American versions, in my opinion. The back glass is in good shape on this one. It does have a little bit of flaking at the bottom, like you see in some of the American stuff, so I imagine their silk screening process was probably similar. Another thing that I mentioned in the other video, these had 6 digits on their scores. The last 2 are dummy reels, and I'll show you in the back how they did that. That's interesting too. And then one of the most striking things about the game is that the cabinet is pressed wood that has like a laminate on it. You can see right here I've touched it up because the laminate had chipped off, and you can see the exposed edge of the pressed wood there. So whenever you get one of these, you'll get that a lot, where this stuff is just flaking off. And this one's in very nice shape still, but I've got a Russell in storage that's made the same way, and like a third of the paint is flaking off of it. Don't really know how they did it like that, but here's the shooter. Again, this appears to be all custom, and the spring seems like, to me, it had a shorter spring on it, so the thing was real sloppy. So I looked around and had a longer spring, but it still feels a little bit light, like maybe it should even have a more a longer spring on it, so I guess that's different. The coin door is similar to the Williams ones, as you can see. It doesn't have a hinge underneath that the coin things. You can see here on the back that the sockets are completely original. You know, the American ones did not look like that. These coin chutes, similar to Williams, but not the same. Of course, it's just got generic quarter coin mix in it right now. The coin switches mount sideways, which isn't really a bad design. It's all custom stuff. I'm sure you could use parts from something else to replace whatever problems you had, but it's all kind of original stuff. I'll pull out the schematics and we'll look at them for a second, and then we'll go on to see what's inside. All right, so I was fortunate that this thing still had the schematics in it. I'm pretty sure though you can get them fairly easily online. You can get reprints and things, I believe, from like Pinball Resource. I think he tries to keep in pretty much everything he can get his hands on, so I'm sure you could get these if you needed them somewhere. But they're similar to, you know, the traditional schematics that everybody's used to. I saw a couple interesting things in the way they wired it. Check this out right here. Coming off the transformer, you got a bunch of different voltages there, you know, for export and European voltages, I guess. But look at this. See the like the two pop bumpers? Notice that they have their own plug. That SL, I think, is slate. They have their own plug, like a Jones plug, and you've got here where it says 28 volt, 30 volt, 33 volt, and then look at this. The two flippers have their own plug. That MA, I think, is maroon, and it has its own Jones plug. So what you're looking at here is adjustable voltage. You can plug those in to 28, and if that's not strong enough for you, 30, and if that's not strong enough for you, 33. So you can adjust the voltage of the bumpers and the flippers. In my opinion, that's yet another way that this is a little bit better than the way the American designs were. And we'll see some stuff here in a minute that isn't all that great, but I'm trying to see if I can think of anything else that was unique whenever I went through this sucker. You'll see whenever we get inside that the score motor is kind of different. But there was a thing here too where you've got a couple relays here that turn on various banks of, you know, that make it where the power is not available unless these two relay normally closed switches are closed. You've got a nice little list over here too that tells you all of the relays and what they're called. So we've got the replay relay, second coin, start relay, first coin, 100,000 points, 100 points, 1,000 points, 500 points, control, no, it's 10,000 points. Control players relay, the hold relay, triple bonus, bumpers 1 and 2, double bonus, score bumper, add score, button replay, reset unit, first player, second player, third player, fourth player, advanced bonus, control reset unit, add score, last ball, score first player, second player, third player, fourth player, the bonus relay, shoot again relay, 5,000 points, the balls relay, the control balls return. Now those two there, the balls relay and the control balls return, that gave me some fits trying to figure that out for a little bit to figure out how to get the ball count unit to work. Target A, B, C, tilt, second player, third player, fourth player, match relay, selector. I can't think of anything really on it that was completely strange, but we'll open it up and kind of show you what's going on underneath the hood. Alright, so on this cabinet at least, this prop rod over here is completely useless. If you try to put the Playfield up like it is, it just does one of these numbers like they do sometimes, because there's nothing back here to hold it in place. So I don't know if this particular machine just has something missing or what, but the prop rod you cannot use. There's absolutely no way to use it. It feels like there should be another one on the other side, but there's not. There's no hole for it or anything. You know, over here you've got your two prop rod holes, but it's useless. So let's check this out. We have this green wire here with the Jones plug on it. I have no clue where that even goes. I couldn't find anything to plug it into, and it comes off of this Jones plug here. Now these Jones plugs are the ones like this. I think those are usually in the valleys. Those things are not that great, you know, if you've ran into that before. They bend easy and they break, and so not really all that impressed with that. But again, some of the Americans were like that too. American ones were like that too. So again, it's not really a slam on the Spanish construction. You've got your replay settings here on the Jones plug. I'm not really sure what that one's for. Okay, and then you've got 3 fuses, easy to get to here. Playboard fuse, lightbox fuse, 30-volt fuse, that's pretty typical. And you've got your score cam here. That's easy to get to the switches. Everything was easy to adjust and clean. The switches seem like, to me, like, we'll look at this one here. This is the runway switch. They seem a little thinner than some of the ones that, some of the American ones that you see. But we ran into one problem with the switch stacks. Something, you know, of course people had been working on this machine, but one of the problems that we ran into was, see these, you know, on American machines, usually these are Bakelite spacers. On this particular one, these are plastic spacers, but that's not the problem. These are riveted together. See the rivets? So these rivets are riveted to this mounting plate here. We ran into 4 sets of these that these rivets just weren't holding in place. They had broken off of the mounting plate. So we had stacks of switches just hanging, which of course the game wouldn't work. So what we had to do on a few of them was put a screw in it into the wood, just make sure it's not real thick, you know, real long where it's going to go all the way through your Playfield or anything. You could also buy a new replacement switch stack, but you'd still have to mount it with screws, which is how they were mounted in most of the American ones. And then on some of these, like on, you can see it good here. If that, man, I don't like how that light's blinking so much, but on this one, notice they've used good screws with nuts on it to hold it together. But on this one here, it's got the rivets. These rivet ones are a problem. So if you get one, check that out. I had, like I said, 4 sets of them broke. You can see on this drop target assembly here, they used a big old stack, but they had, again, screws with nuts on it, so no issue. So you're going to run into different things, but all of the relays are very well labeled, and it's silk screened or painted on the board so that you can tell what every relay is easily. It not only tells you the letter, but it tells you the the description, what it does, and all of that. And everything's even sorted and pretty good in the right place. Like, there's your second player, third player, fourth player right next to each other. This is the ball unit here. None of that's labeled where it tells you what each unit does, but you can figure it out pretty easily. Again, I don't feel like taking that back apart. Maybe I can get a good picture of this. Check out how yeah, there you go. Check out how the contacts work on that ball. This is the bonus unit. See how wide the contacts and everything are in there? Big old plates that the rivets, well, they're not rivets, that the pins can go around and hit. So very well designed, very solid connection. On the American ones, you just had a little rivet and you have to line it up to where the leg lands just on the rivet. Well, that's not really a problem on this one. If you're even close, it's going to be on that plate. Again, just a different way of doing it. Hope you could see that good. I don't want to take that whole thing back apart. You've got this little boy here, which is the spin relay. So this pulls in. This pulls in and connects to a different spot on these 2 Bakelite boards. It's similar to how like a match unit works in a lot of the American ones. And then you've got on the bottom of the Playfield tons more relays. Bunch more over here. And again, they are all labeled. So these have long wires. You can pull them out. Ran into one problem. Took me forever to figure it out because I'm an idiot, but I'll mention it here. Hopefully it'll save you some time. Okay, notice how these little pins hold the relays in. See this little hairpin thing here? So the relay goes through and then that little pin clips around it. Well, I was putting them all in with this end piece here, sticking up, you know, because it's just easier for me to push it in and leave it like that. Well, the problem I was running into, I don't know what that relay does. Hopefully it won't start the game, but it's a bumper relay. Okay, the problem I was running into is I was getting, things weren't working right, and I was getting some relays buzzing. So like my hold relay was buzzing really loudly. And so I looked at it and looked at it. I could not figure it out, and then finally I figured out what the hell was going on. I had this thing turned so that that metal pin was sticking up, and you see that white spacer there? When the hold relay would pull in, that white actuator would hit the pin, and instead of getting a good solid, you know, where it would pull it all in way in like it wants to, it would be fighting it and buzzing like hell, like the loudest buzzing ever on a relay. So I thought that the relay was burned up, so I ordered another coil, put it in, same thing. So what you have to do is you have to go around and either turn them upside down like that or turn them like this one where they're crooked. See how it's crooked where it's out of the way of that actuator? Check that. That was a big deal. I had about 3 of them that were stopping it from doing its thing because I'm a moron. But there we go. Now another thing about these that's different is the switches, the rollovers are plastic, but it's a really thick, like ABS type almost plastic, so they don't break or anything, or they don't seem to, and they work great. So that's kind of different from what you usually see in the American ones. And the flippers, it had big old Hardy flippers. I had to replace this coil. They had hacked it up pretty bad. The coil stops are like kind of an L-shaped little thing. You might have trouble getting those. I don't know if anybody makes reproductions of those or not, but the ones I had were in pretty good shape, so I didn't have to worry about it. The chime set, I think that's kind of similar to the Gottlieb one. I think the Gottliebs have these pins on them like that. I may be wrong about that, but I had a problem with this one where it was rattling a little bit. What it was doing, you can see right here, I've turned it upside down. See the little nicks on the side? What it was doing, and again it's upside down, what it was doing was it was rattling and hitting the plate beneath it. So as it would hit, it would, so it rattled. And the reason it was doing that is because it took me a while to figure this out too. There is a support right there that holds it up on the end, and it was bent. You can see it's still bent a little bit. Maybe I'll bend it up a little more, but this little support right here was bent down a little bit, so this plate was a little low, which was making it rattle. Little things you figure out. So let's see what else. If there's anything else in the body here that I can show you. Oh yeah, one last little thing. Let me show you that jumper for the voltage. This might be upside down, but there you are. Check that out. So there's 2 slots for 28 volt, 2 slots for 30 volt, and 2 slots for 33 volts. So you can put those flippers, which I've got in the 30 volt, and then the slate colored one, as they call it, is the pops. And the pops are in the 33 volts, so I've got the pop bumpers set up high, stronger than the flippers actually. But as you saw in the thing, the flippers were nice and strong. But there you go. So that's the bottom of it. I'll take the back off and show you the back box too. It's a little different, and show you just trying to show you all the mechanical differences in this as compared to like an American machine. Be right back. All right, so we'll check out the back box a little bit. The back door is really nice. Just kind of a stamped thing, like usual. They did the edge of it a little different than what you see in the American ones we're also used to. On the bottom channel, it has these little lips that hold it all in place. Works out great. You can see the particle board construction, which I suppose if it doesn't get wet is great. It has a similar, you know, where you pull the latches back, like on on a lot of the EMs that we're used to. It has these neat little lever setups to pull the score reels out. I'll pull one out to show you. That is similar. I can't remember the company in America that did that same thing. But so it's got that, like, kind of latches it in place. It's got your little circuit board here on the end to do the match with. I didn't have any bad solder joints on that. I did have some bad solder joints on the end of stroke switch, which isn't on this reel, but see the end of, there's actually 2 end of stroke switches on each one. I had some of those where the wire, the solder had broken loose, so I had to resolder about 3 or 4 of those, so look for that. Another thing about these is that the coil wrappers are falling off of every coil in the game. So if that kind of thing bothers you, get ready to put a lot of tape on them or whatever. The reels are easy to clean. You know how a lot of the American reels, whenever you clean them, the ink comes off. Well, these, you don't have that problem. You can do whatever you want to them, and the numbers don't start to run or anything. And they have a really nice action where they just, well, if I can get it to, it's hard to do this and hold a camera at the same time. You can see that they've got just a nice click. They run through. Well, of course I would mess it up. I hit it with my hand. They have a real nice, I'll show you that last one again just so you can see. You know, they click right through, no problems at all. The way they did the switches here, oh, check that out. You might actually be able to see something. So we're in position 1, and your middle one is the only one that's closed. See how the middle one's closed? So we'll 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so here we go. 9 swings down and makes the bottom one. The middle one's still made, and then 0 swings way up, makes the top one, and opens the bottom too. Now, I don't really like how it makes that top one, because you know what that means. If you've got one freaking dirty switch on any of them, it's not going to reset properly. But that's how they designed it. And I didn't have that problem. I mean, it worked fine for me, so we'll slide this back in there. I can do that here in a minute. And then, interestingly enough, the 2 dummy reels are on the front of its own little thing, but you can't pull it out because it's in front of the wood, so whatever. And the way they did the lighting was really interesting. There's a bulb that needs messed with a little bit. The way they did the lighting was really interesting. So on each score reel, we're in game over right now, half of the lights are lit. So as you can see, 2, 4, I guess 6 is out. 2, 4, and 6 are lit up on all of them. Well, whenever it's that player's turn, so for instance, score first player, T1, score first player. One of the things that relay does is it turns on all 6 lights. So it's slightly brighter than the other ones. Interesting way to do it. And the coin unit is similar to the American ones. This little match unit is really neat. I don't know if an American company had one like this, but check this out. There is a little match reel with 3 digits on it. And then there's this contraption over here where these 2 coils hide or display with this blinder the match. So I need another 3 hands, but let's see if I can make it do anything. So right now it's showing you 900. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong one. If it that little blind goes up over it while the game's playing, and then goes down at game over. Just why would they go through all that trouble? But whatever. And you can kind of see how the lock system works there. This one slides in pretty good. Check that out. Try to get this other one in where it goes. Same with it. So as you can see, it's a nice clean little setup. Of course, you got your Jones plugs and everything. Lots of relays, and again, they're all kind of bit silk screened, what they all do and what they are. So there you have it. That is a Spanish-made Playmatic New World pinball machine. I hope you liked the video. Just trying to show you a little bit of the differences, because to me it was pretty interesting. I'd never messed with one of these, but I think in some ways, and you might agree, a lot of the things that we saw, it's designed better than the American-made ones, and in some ways maybe not. And again, remember, this was 1976, so the American companies have been designing them a long time, giving these Spanish companies a good idea of what to do to make the things work well. But there you have it. So I'll go ahead and end this, but if you want, check out the rest of our videos on our website. We've got a lot of videos up. Every time we get a new game in, we film a video showing kind of the design and the gameplay of it. So you can also check out all of our games that we have for sale at any moment in time on our website at lionsarcade.com. Now, if you live anywhere near us, you can come by and check us out. We're in downtown Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is about 15 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we got a whole room full of stuff here at all times. So we will see you on the next video. Make sure to subscribe.